1. A little background information. I am average height, so about 5'5", 120 pounds, female, so I'm fairly thin and not very strong. The other day, my sister and I took a trip out to Walgreens to pick up some pictures my sister had sent in to get printed for the photo album she was putting together. We pull into the parking lot, and my attention immediately shoots to the pretty beat-up little black car, only parked 2 stalls over. It had 2 flat tires, both on the passenger side of the car, which appeared to be slashed. I had noticed that he only had 1 spare on him. But when we got there, he was half in his car and seemed to be looking for something. My sister then got out of the car to go inside to pick up her pictures. I stayed in the car and waited for her. I was not in the car alone. We had our 1.5-year-old black lab in the back seat. And mind you, this is not a small dog. For those of you who don't know, labs usually range from about 70 to 80 pounds. But ours is 103 pounds. He's definitely not little, and a bit intimidating, even being the sweet boy that he is. Anyways, he was in the back seat and the window was rolled down about quarter of the way, so he could stick his head out like dogs do, and I was sitting in the front passenger side of the car. That's when I heard the most threatening growl I've ever heard from my dog, or any dog really, in my entire life. And I was so taken aback because, yeah, I've heard him growl before, but not like this. He had his whole head out the window, and his hair was standing on end. This scared me a little because, like I said before, he's super sweet. And this behavior is so not like him, even when we're around public areas. So I looked to the side at the driver's side window, and I saw the man from the car slowly walking toward my car. At that moment, I did not hesitate to make sure all the doors were locked, considering I did not have the keys with me, so there was no other way I could have avoided a bad situation. He walks up to the window and gently touches it, and at this point my dog is going nuts. But it didn't make that much of a scene because this specific Walgreens is located in a town consisting of no more than 10,000 people, so there were maybe 2 or 3 other cars there at most. I looked at the man and noticed that he was unstable. He was in about his mid-20s, and he was walking fairly slow, trying to keep his balance, and his eyes were bulging out of his head, and he never blinked. There's no doubt in my mind that this guy was on drugs. He kind of stood there for a minute, so I got up the courage to say hello. His response was, "Can you roll down the window?" I said, "No, that window has been broken for some time now. It does not open." This was a lie because it was the passenger window on our car that was broken. But there was no way I was rolling down the window for this man. Besides, like I had mentioned before, I didn't have the keys, so I wouldn't have been able to roll it down anyways. That's when my eyes darted to the back window, and I realized it was open. The man's eyes followed mine, but he didn't move because this entire time, my dog has been non-stop snarling at him and showing his teeth. That's probably what scared me most because, mind you, I don't scare easily at all. I then looked back at him, and his eyes met mine. His hand slowly lowered to the door handle, and he casually tried to open it with no luck. His next question was, "Can you open the door?" And I could tell he was holding back a smirk. I then told him, "No, my sister is going to be back out here in just a minute." And that hint of a smirk quickly changed to disappointment. The whole time he was talking to me, his eyes would quickly look around the car. I'm not exactly sure what he was looking for, but I can't imagine he had very good intentions. I then asked him if I could help him with anything, and his response was, "No, I just want to talk to you." That totally set me off, and I was silently screaming to myself. He then stood there and stared at me for a minute, and then went to the older lady in the car 2 stalls down from mine, on the other side of my car. I could tell that she was immediately on edge also. I'm not sure if she saw what happened before, but she knew something wasn't right. She then glanced over at me and must have noticed that I was a little freaked out, and the guy's eyes followed hers. Once again, he looked at me and must have noticed that I had my phone in my hands, since he glanced down at my hands and quickly looked back at the lady, and turned around and went inside. My first thought was, oh shit, because I told him before that my sister was inside. A little note here, my sister is older than me, and we are both under the age of 21, and my sister is slightly shorter than me, but around the same build and weight. So I text her and say, holy fuck. And her response was, what? I later found out that her first thought was that maybe the dog got out of the car. But right after I received her text, the man came back out of the store. So I told my sister that I would tell her when she got back outside. The man proceeded to walk back towards his car, which meant he had to walk past my car again. He stopped directly in front of my car and faced the wall. He leaned his head on the wall and punched the wall before turning around and looking at me again. His eyes then met mine once again, for about a minute, before he continued to walk past my car and to his own, not once breaking eye contact or blinking. He then resumed his position in his car the exact way he had been when we got there, just as my sister comes out of the store and towards the car. When my sister got in the car, before she could ask questions, I told her we needed to get the fuck out of here, and she didn't argue. When we left the store and headed home, this entire time my dog never stopped growling. I wonder what would have happened if my dog wasn't in the car with me, or if I had been naive and opened the door. What did that guy really want? I guess reading stories on this subreddit really prepared me for that moment. Who knows what could have happened? I don't think I'll be sitting alone in the car again anytime soon. That just shows that danger can be anywhere, even where you'd least expect it. And as for the creep who just wanted to talk, let's not meet again. 2. I'm 26 years old, have green eyes, and I'm a little skinny too, so bear in mind that I'm therefore not looking intimidating at all. One night, I was out with my beloved girlfriend and soon fiancé, eating at an Italian restaurant. It was a Wednesday afternoon, and I know it was Wednesday because there weren't many people in the street that day. Plus I work shifts, so that was also my day off. Usually our city is crowded on Thursdays, Fridays and on the weekends, but not on the other days. Well, the night went accordingly to the plan, and we had great fun. We sat on a 4-seated table near the big window, because we wanted more space. There weren't many people inside the restaurant, so we were free to choose. As we were eating, a man passed the window at a high pace, stops at the window while staring at us, and at the same time licking his index finger, and afterwards pointing at us both. He then put his face against the window so his nose touched the glass. After this, he kept walking by. A very creepy and weird guy, with extremely red eyes, and I mean extremely red. It felt like he passed us by in a split second, so it all happened really fast. He was dressed in all black jeans and a black leather vest of some sort. Also that his hair was long and dripping wet, covering his face a bit. His body was a normal size. That's what I could recall at the time. My girlfriend and I glanced at each other and we chuckled a little, as we usually do when something awkward happens. And that was a really awkward moment. We've never seen the dude before, so we assumed he was mentally ill or something. Well, we forgot about it and carried on with our evening, and later we had a couple of drinks in the restaurant while having a good time. Time passed us by, and it got a little late, so we decided to call it a night and headed for home. We live like 30 minutes on foot from the restaurant, laying at the center of the city, And while the bus don't drive that often at midnight, meaning we should wait another 30 minutes or so for the bus, keeping in mind that it had also rained a lot outside while we were eating and having fun inside, so we didn't want to risk getting caught in the rain. Therefore, we decided to walk home hand in hand. Approximately 5 minutes after we left, and as we were walking down the street, we hear some noise from behind. Sounded like two people whispering to each other. Didn't pay more attention to it, as they were far away from us. After a while, we suddenly hear some light footsteps coming from behind. This time, only one person, and sounded as if that person had dress code shoes on, and was walking really fast, like tap, 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 tap. I turned around, and this time I saw a little silhouette moving. We were the only people in this specific road at the time. I could feel that my girlfriend got a little uncomfortable because she was squeezing my hand that she was holding while she kept asking, "Who is it, babe?" I tried to calm her by saying, "It's nothing," or so. But I was scared the hell out of myself, thinking someone would assault us from behind or something like that. That sound came closer and closer towards us from behind, while it also gets louder and louder. Now, tap, 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 but still with the lightness in it. I turned around and saw a black silhouette quickly hiding in a door entry to the building we were passing by. I didn't turn my head forward so I could still see the shadow peeking out to see if I was still looking back. He didn't do good at hiding either, because I could see he held something in his hand. He was playing with it, somehow, and it sounded like when you hit iron with iron. I automatically assumed it was, what do you call it, a butterfly knife? Or something? It may have been like 50 meters away from us, so now the buildings here are stacked close up to each other. So this was a long-ass road, with no side roads. We finally cornered the building, and I was, fuck me. I was seriously close to shitting bricks now, because that's not normal behavior in the fucking midnight. My gut feeling said to me that I should get the hell out of here, ASAP. As we cornered the building, I hear high-pitched whistling coming from that part we had just left. Maybe this fucker was calling out to his mate to back him up. Hell, I don't know. But I was thinking all sorts of dramatic scenes now, and how to get out of here safely. Well, as we turned, there happens to be a free cab waiting for the red stoplight. I didn't even wave at him because this was now our taxi, no matter what. I dragged my girlfriend with me and opened the door to the cab. The driver was looking at me like, what the fuck? But I managed to make him roll by saying, my wife was feeling a little ill, or something like that. He bought it, and drove as the stoplight turned green. As we passed the streetlight, I see the same dude who passed us at the restaurant, just staring at me, and just as I had thought, he was playing with the knife in his hand. He looked really pissed, seeing us take off in the cab, and he just kept staring while biting his teeth until we passed him, and from then off, we didn't turn our heads back to see him. I confessed to the cab driver and told him the truth, and he was so kind and understanding. But I don't know if he had reacted differently if I had told him the truth from the beginning. I just felt like it would have taken longer time to explain. While sitting in the cab, I obviously called the cops and described the one person we saw through the window. After 1 to 2 hours, the cops called back, telling me that they had apprehended 2 persons, where the one matched my description. He was on drugs and illegally possessed with a knife. Plus, he was wanted, so they took him in right away, and he was later sentenced for attempted murder and robbery from an earlier case. Also, the cab driver got tipped very well that night because I still believe to this day that he saved our lives by taking the role. So to the driver, if you ever read this, thank you so much again. That was a scary-ass night. We never ever will forget. From that day on, we still take a cab when it's late, even though we're close to our home. 3. This happened just over 6 weeks ago, but I'm still rattled. 2 months ago, I moved in with my partner. We lived blocks apart for over a year, and we've long been ready for this next step. Things were going pretty swimmingly for new cohabitants. Our schedules, naturally, and work-related, weren't precisely the same, but we balanced each other regarding chores and general housekeeping during our one in bed, one wide awake time. I've always been an early riser, even more so since adopting a dog a year and a half ago. Housebreaking a 3-month-old puppy will do that to you. And I grew used to popping up around 6:30 in the morning to take him out before he made a mess in the house. On this particular day, things were hardly different. My partner, the dog, and I were sleeping comfortably in bed, and I started hitting snooze on my phone before the 7 o'clock hour. We had gone to bed late, stayed up watching a movie and playing a board game, and I tried to squeeze in an extra 15-20 minutes of rest before the pup and I went on our walk, and I got ready to go to work. As usual, I tossed on a house dress and sweater, snagged my keys, and whisked the dog away. As usual, we spent about 15 minutes outside, took the long way back around so Pup could stretch his legs, and I could comfortably leave him in the care of my sleeping boyfriend, without worrying he would cause too much commotion before he woke. When I returned to the apartment, an open motel-style place that you find all over the area where we live, I started to feel the time crunch of running late. I tossed food in the dog bowl, closed him in the bedroom, which was unusual for me. I like to keep him with me while I get ready in the morning, since we'll be separated for 10+ hours, and hopped in the shower. I got out, undressed, went back into the bedroom where Pup had settled back into the bed with my boyfriend, tossed on my work clothes, and closed the door behind me. After turning on my flat iron and sitting beside the front door in our darkened living room to pick out shoes, make sure I had my shit ready to go, I went back to the bathroom and closed the door behind me. Sitting in there, messing around on my phone and finishing getting ready, I noticed flickering light beneath the door. It struck me as odd. My partner is a heavy sleeper and rarely awake before I have to leave. I didn't see the bedroom door open or shut. I was surprised he didn't say anything to me, seeing that the bathroom door was closed. The doors are perpendicular to each other, but I was late now, and I didn't overthink it. I flushed and opened the bathroom door, expecting to see him in the kitchen putzing around or to hear my dog come scampering over. Instead, I froze in the bathroom threshold. Not 25 feet away were a pair of eyes, kind of bulging, and a face in the dark. A woman I'd never met was crouched by the front door, staring at me, shushing me, and mouthing for me to be silent. The seconds felt long, but it must have only been an instant. I reached out, threw open the bedroom door, and hurried in, trying to close it, mostly, but not all the way, behind me. Looking back, I remember feeling like I could barely speak. Whoever the intruder was, I didn't want to excite her. I didn't want to provoke her. And I was as afraid that she would try to follow me in as I was terrified of cutting ourselves off in a room without a way of knowing if she was armed on the other side of the door. Panicking, I roused my partner, telling him over and over that there's a stranger in here. He thought it was the maintenance man. No, it's a stranger. It's a stranger, was essentially all I could say. He and the dog, all 12 pounds of him, sat up in bed. I remember starting to cry as he insisted I close the door, just certain that meant we were trapped. While he dressed, a new panic began to formulate in my mind. If the intruder was still there, yes, I was scared my boyfriend would step out of the bedroom and get hurt. But if the intruder wasn't there, he'd think I lost my mind. He stepped in front of me and opened the door. And when the worst slasher flick images in my mind didn't immediately come true, I looked out over his shoulder. She was still there, still hissing at us to shush, imploring us to be silent, trying to peer out of the slats between the shutters. To his credit, entirely his credit, because had he not been there, I would have just barricaded myself in the bedroom until help came. My partner approached slowly and introduced himself. I stood between him and the kitchen, still afraid she had a weapon in the dark. When the dog finally looked out and saw another person, he began to growl and whimper, while I tried to keep him from going full tilt little dog. And I only caught fragments of the conversation my boyfriend had with her. She gave us a name, said she was in town either visiting family or random people she met, and that they had been following her, that they wanted to assault her. A man named Mark let her into our building, that the men, her attackers, were outside the door. We all waited in silence for a few more minutes, listening to the people, her would-be attackers or random innocent bystanders, hovering on the walkway between our unit and the elevator. And after a few minutes of sitting a few feet away from her, my partner got her to agree that we should call the police. 4 officers arrived minutes later, handcuffed her outside our window, and questioned us. I've always felt that if I was at home and alert, there wasn't much reason to lock the front door behind me. I've lived in small-town America and big cities, and never once has this particular faith been challenged. Taking our report, the most macho of the cops asked if I had learned my lesson. Yes, officer, I have. Thanks, officer. I was on the fence about mentioning to them, and in the end opted not to, because I know memory is fallible, and in the end she didn't take anything from us, except my sense of security in our own home. But days before, I'd followed the same routine. Wake up, take the dog out around 7-something, lock the door when I'm finally ready to head out for the day, while my guys are asleep. As I'd returned to the apartment the previous morning, down the walkway was a similar-looking lady in similar clothes. At her down-the-way neighbor's front door. She looked up at me, and me at her, and I'd probably locked the door that day. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 99. I was dreaming when I wrote this, forgive me if it... Oh wait, no, that's something else entirely. Never mind. Right, where are we at now? Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday. Well, these weeks are flying by this year. And they have been for a while. I don't know if it's just that the older I get, the faster time seems to go. Anyway. It'll be Christmas before I know it. I should probably start my Christmas shopping already. No, there's a truly scary thought. Okay, I just want to thank you all for the likes and all the comments on the recent videos. Because I don't think I can thank you guys enough for that. I really don't, so that's why I like to keep saying that. Also like to welcome the new subscribers. I've been very fortunate in the past week or so. I've gained quite a few of you, so thank you very much for hitting that subscribe button. Also, massive thanks goes to those of you who are retweeting the videos, because, you know, that helps get it out to a wider audience for me as well. And with that, I think I should probably stop recording for the day, because I've got a wee bit of a burning sensation in my throat here. Probably just means I need to go eat some proper food, because, well, I've been a very, very bad hellfreezer today, indulging in sweets and energy drinks and things, all that good stuff that's not good for you. Although I did have a smoothie earlier. Apple, banana, kale, celery, I think. Convincing myself that I'm actually being healthy, you know, after all the sugar. Well. Okay, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.